Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Own Your Choices, Own Your Life. And today we're just going to do a quick episode, but touch on the topic of boundaries. Boundaries, it's a big, big word. And I can tell you, after the last month, I've been really working with women, and we're diving in on, where they are at in their life and turning their light on and taking ownership for their life and redefining and owning their story and setting their boundaries so that they can, live a much happier life and reconnect with their partner, their spouse, whatever that is. Take back their life from their teens who are probably, in some cases they are running the show. So it's really been interesting. And boundaries is this topic that keeps hitting in over and over and over for everyone. And it was probably one of the biggest words and biggest challenges that I had to work through. So I did a lot of work on boundaries early in my process of personal growth. And boundaries, I've learned a lot through Brené Brown. So if you have never listened to anything by Brené Brown, I would highly recommend tuning in. On YouTube, she has her TED Talk that was her famous vulnerability TED Talk. And she talks a little bit about boundaries and courage in there. And in any of her books, Rising Strong, The Gifts of Imperfection, Daring Greatly, they're all great. And she talks about boundaries. So she was the first person that I heard really speak about boundaries. And so I started doing a little bit of reading to get a better understanding. And it's become a big part of what I'm working and coaching with women on, because it affects a lot of us. And it is not something that we're very clear on in our lives. So, I want you to do, there's a few definitions that I wanted to touch on here, but boundaries, daring to set boundaries is about having the courage to love yourself, even when we risk disappointing others. So it's not about others. It's not about what others want for our lives. It's what we're choosing for ourselves. And those are two completely different things. And I want you to, I'm going to explain from even a standpoint as a parent that there still are boundaries. I understand when we have little ones that we don't get, I've done it, I've been there, that we don't get a lot of time for ourselves. And as we grow older, as those kids grow older, then we actually sadly almost lose more boundaries, because we are, teens are busy. Teens are, even when there's no issues, teens are very busy in a different way. So creating your boundaries is something that is really important for you to do. And it's also something important for your kids to do in the big picture as they start to grow older. So one of the things that I talked about with boundaries is that, there are personal boundaries and there are energetic boundaries. And I'm sure there's a lot others, but those are the ones that I really speak a lot about. So personal boundaries are, whether it's, just giving you a simple example is, your own personal boundary of your space and your privacy, and how far does family, take on family for a second, how far does family reach into that space? How much are you deciding your life based on what everyone else around you is doing? How much are you affected by how, whether people that you work with are having a good day, that, if someone else is being super negative, that is invading into your space and you're taking. So the thing with boundaries is that it's not about this big wall that you put up. Because if you put this big wall up, what happens is that you can protect yourself from the outside world, but you also aren't in any space to receive at the same time. So that's not how you want to live either. And I remember reading in one of Brené's books early on, talking about that when we put the walls up to protect ourselves and shield ourselves, so which we think we're doing to keep ourselves safe, what we're actually doing, those are the same mechanics that we do to block out joy. So if I'm going to prevent myself from being hurt from anything in the outside world, which isn't possible, but and I did this for a long time, if you believe that you are doing that, what you're also doing is you're blocking out the joy in life at the same time. So you don't want to do both. I don't want you to think of boundaries as that brick wall that nothing gets in or out. It's that you respect yourself enough for what you want in your life. So the one definition that I've used of boundaries is that, I don't set my boundaries to offend, please, or upset you. They're actually not about you. I set my boundaries to honor the goals and priorities that I have set out for my own life. So my boundaries that I set out are a representation of my own life, my own choices, my own goals, my own priorities, my own things that I want to step forward and work towards. They're not about you, for example. And sometimes people will say, oh, that's really harsh. Well, you should have boundaries in your own life as well. And if you don't have boundaries, then you think of yourself like this. You are the pinball, the pinball in the machine, for any of those who you old enough to know what I'm talking about. You are basically bouncing back and forth between everything else in your life, and you are reacting to everything that's happening, but there's nowhere that you're directing it. So it's like everyone else in your life is like you're pinging back and forth on everything, but you're not deciding what you want for your life. So that could be everything from your personal, from your health, from your finances, from your, whether it's your partner. I also talk a little bit about energetic boundaries, and the energetic boundaries are much the same way that, you know, there are some people, and it's completely fine. I'm not here to change everyone, but there are some people who are in a very negative headspace. Life might have dealt them something that is very difficult, life-altering, or traumatizing. And that's where their focus is, and that's what they want to live in. So for example, you ask them how they're doing, and they're like, terrible, like this, that's wrong, this is wrong. You know, on any given day, if I stop and think about it, I can find a lot of things that are wrong, but I just don't choose to spend my time and energy on those thoughts because I don't like how I feel when I'm in those spaces. And I've had a long background in health and wellness, healthcare field, working as a personal trainer, kinesiologist, and I've seen some amazing stories. And I've seen people who have literally had to learn how to walk again, or who have not been able to, you know, their life is completely different. They're wheelchair bound for the rest of their life. And on one hand, I can think of the people who have had to reach those and live in that space. And some of them were the happiest, most grateful people. It's unbelievable. There's great people to follow in social media. And I have used, I followed Kyle Maynard's stuff for a long time. He's phenomenal. If you want to see somebody on YouTube who he was a full amputee and was born that way, and who climbed Mount Everest, and he's phenomenal. So why am I telling you these stories? Because there are people who have like unbelievable things that they have faced in their life, and they have found a way to come out on top. It's possible. So energetic boundaries, sorry, I swayed there. I just get so excited when I talk about his story. But energetic boundaries, if you are around somebody who feels like they are constantly sucking the life and the energy out of you to the point that you have nothing left when you leave them, that's a sign. Right? That's a sign. That can be a friend, a family member, whatever that is. If it's somebody that you have a hard time not being around and you are around them, then you're going to have to start to find a way to create some boundaries so that you don't take on their energy. You can be around them, but it basically, you become like a bubble and it bounces off of you because I don't take that in, or that's not mine to own. And the boundaries literally can save you. They saved me at a point in my life when I just did not know how to continue for one more day. Boundaries are you owning your own choices for your priorities in your life. Whatever way, shape, or form they look, how they show up in your life, those boundaries become the guiding system for your life and which direction you want to take it in. And when you get to a space of owning and honoring and respecting what your boundaries are, the one thing I can tell you is that every single decision you make becomes so much easier. Because is it in line with my boundaries? No. So the answer is no. Like, I know exactly what I'm going to do. And that is truly how I live my life. It's actually easy in a sense. Doesn't mean I don't sway. It doesn't mean that I don't have hard times with it. But I always come back to what my boundaries are and what I allow in my life and who I allow in my life energy-wise. Because it makes everything else easier, because I want you to be a priority in your own life, and as you should be. And so that you can move towards the goals that you're here to achieve. So you can move forward to impact the people that you're meant to impact. And that all stems from knowing what your boundaries are. So if you've listened to this and you've went, what are boundaries? Or I know I don't have any, or my life is completely dictated by how everyone else is behaving around me, or what's happening in the news, or what is happening around me, the people I am with, then you probably most likely don't have any boundaries. And it's very important to have them. We all need them in some way, shape, or form, because you deserve to honor who you are, what you are here for, and who you're going to impact. And that will start by honoring your personal and your energetic boundaries. So if you'd love any help with that and you would love to reach out, I have a few clients I'm working with right now where we're just doing a quick chat on the phone, and we are looking at where their personal and their energetic boundaries are, where they lie, and what changes we can make in order to help them get back on track. So if that speaks to you, please feel free to reach out and connect. And if the message speaks to you, feel free to share it. I always appreciate that, and I always appreciate the feedback. So today was on boundaries. It's not going to be the last podcast I do on boundaries because it's such a big part about what I talk about, but it was just a touch on it today. So if that lands, I hope there's a message in there for you today. And I hope that you have an incredible day today. I thank you so much for tuning in, for listening, and for sharing. And I hope you have an amazing day. Thank you so much. Join us for another episode of Own Your Choices, Own Your Life. Thanks again.